guys? No, I already did a video on this card, but I'm going to do another one. The card's been switched around, and if you didn't watch my MMA news episode, you probably didn't see some of the updates I made to the bets and stuff like that, or what I was talking about. And so I'm going to go through the card again real quick, go over all my picks real quick, and go over all my official bets for this card. Also, if you guys want to check out my Instagram, highkick_fight picks, you can see all my stuff on there too. But anyways, yeah, let's get into it, man. So originally, I told y'all what I was doing. I had a two-man parlay on Imavov and Shavkat Rakhmonov, and Romanov lost his fight. Jeff Neal was out due to injury. So starting off, I'm going to go ahead and let you know I got a straight up play on Imavov here in this spot. I'm not going to spend too long on all these fights. I'll go over them a little bit, because I kind of went over a lot of them last time and all that. But so you got Kevin Gastelum. He's 1-4 in his last 5 fights. He hadn't looking very good lately, and he's late in his career. He isn't getting totally destroyed in these losses. It was unanimous decision losses, but he hasn't been looking as good here lately. And Nassimento Imavov is a giant, and that's one of the main things for me here is looking at it. Whenever Imavov in his last fight fought Buckley, he made Buckley look tiny compared to him, and Gaslim's even smaller than Buckley. So the size difference here is going to be huge. He's going to have almost a 4-inch reach advantage here. 5-inch height advantage. He's massive. He's a big dude for this weight class. He's probably, other than Pereira and Izzy and stuff. He's probably one of the biggest guys in the weight class. And yeah, I definitely see Imavov getting the win here, for sure. Probably by knockout would be my guess. But anything else I need to say on that? No, y'all get it. Y'all get it on that one. I would. Let's look at what everybody else thinks. You got 80% on Tapology going for Imavov, 20% Gaslim. And I understand, as much as I like Gaslim and want to see him have a good performance, I just don't think he's going to be able to do it in this spot, against this guy. Next up, we got in the co-main event, since Shavkat Rakhmonov is out, unfortunately, we got Puliani Soriano versus Roman Kopylov. And I'm going with Soriano here. Kopylov had a lot of, I wouldn't say had a lot of hype coming in, but, I'd kind of expected a lot more out of him when he was coming into the UFC. And, he just wasn't able to put on any good performances. He just wasn't doing very well. He finally did a good job in his last fight, but, Alessio Di Chirico is not the best of opponent. But he did show out and get a knockout. So, good for him to get everything back on the right track. But I've got to go with Soriano here because, he's got big power and he swings for the fences from start to finish. And, and he might get a little tired in the 3rd round, but, he's probably 2 rounds straight of just, throwing fastballs at you, and he's a heavy hitter. And I definitely see him probably, getting the win here. Probably by either 1st round, 2nd round knockout. Honestly, I know Kopylov traditionally hasn't really been finished, but if there's anybody that can do it, it's definitely Soriano. Moving on to the next one. Let's see what we got. Dan Hege versus Damon Jackson. So, in my last video, I'm going to go ahead and say I'm going to go with Dan Hege here. And the reason I'm going to go with Dan Hege, I'm really impressed with Jackson and everything, but he hasn't been fighting the best of competition. Probably his best win was his last fight when he fought Pat Sabatini. He really handled business there, made a statement. And he did a great job there. But Dan Hege has been fighting the best of the best in the division. Mozar Evelev, Josh Emmett, Korean Zombie, Calvin Cater. And he's not getting knocked out by these people or finished. These are, decision losses that he had. And he's pretty good, man. And, I guess basically what it comes down to is Damon Jackson going to be able to take down Dan Ige and control him. And although he's got a good chance, and I kind of, normally, a fighter's, 1-4 in their last 5 fights, I wouldn't really tend to go with them. I said that about Gaslim, and I'm kind of backtracking on it here, but for some reason, I just kind of see maybe Dan Ige stuff in the takedowns, or maybe losing the first round, and then Jackson tiring a little bit, and Ige taking over on the feet. Maybe landing volume, winning the last 2 rounds, or he could possibly get a knockout. It happens. He's done it. He knocked out Gavin Tucker, I believe. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Dan Ige here. And when the reason that I'm kind of doing this all over again is because when I did the last video, none of the lines were out yet, so all the lines are starting to come in on my sports book. And originally they had Damon Jackson as the favorite, and he was like a -120, and Dan Ige was a slight underdog. Well, now it's flipping, and I believe Dan Ige is a favorite, on my sports book now. So I think a lot of people are catching my drift here on this one, even though it's a close fight, and it could go either way for sure. And I definitely respect Damon Jackson, absolutely. But I don't know. I don't think Dan Ige's done. If he doesn't win this fight, he could possibly lose his career in the UFC, man. And I don't think he's done yet, just because he hasn't been able to beat the top of the top, of the division. Doesn't mean that he's, a bad fighter or that he's going to lose to anybody. I mean, Damon Jackson's got a good chance, but I'm going to give Dan Ige the pick here. And, everybody on Tapology, they got 47% for Ige and 53% for Damon Jackson. Understandable, I could see why people would be on Jackson here. Just looking at the the records of as of late, I could see why they would be going with Jackson on that, and especially after what he did in his last fight. But I'm going to be taking Ige on this one. I'm not going to put any money on it, probably. Might throw him in like a parlay, but a big parlay. Sometimes I make big parlays, and just put like, 20, 30 bucks on it. Just don't see if it'll hit, Next we got Jimmy Flick and versus Charles Johnson. And I want to talk about this one, okay? Because, obviously, backtracking to what I said in the other video, I picked Charles Johnson to win in the video based on the fact that Jimmy Flick retired almost 2 years ago, and had one fight in the UFC, beat Cody Durden, flying triangle, crazy. He's really good, and if he had been more active, recently, and not had retired, and then now he's just coming back 2 years later, and we don't know what he's going to look like or anything. That's why I was going with Charles Johnson here, because I'm not really big on Charles Johnson. He survived Makayev. I thought he lost his last fight with Zimagulov. I thought he clearly got outlanded in the. Well, I think he probably got outlanded in every round. I thought Zimagulov definitely won the first 2 rounds of that fight, and that poor dude just keeps getting screwed over on decisions, all the time. He can't get nothing to go his way, and I hope he's not out of the UFC because of it. Because it was a good fight and he did a good performance, and I thought he won. But, looking at the fucking sports book today, guys, they have Charles Johnson, as of earlier today, a -450 favorite over Jimmy Flick. And I'm sorry, but Charles Johnson does not deserve to be a -450 favorite over, probably anybody in the UFC, based on what we've seen, so. Even though I was picking Charles Johnson to win, now that I saw the line, I'm kind of like, I'm debating on, putting a little money on Jimmy Flick, or maybe making a little parlay with some of the people I think are going to win, and, putting them on there for the value, because that's just ridiculous, him being a -450 favorite over anybody after the performances he's put on. I get it. Y'all might think about that. Think about it. go back and watch some of the tape for yourselves, on these guys, and tell me what you think. Put in the comments. I'm not opposed to. For the purposes of the show, I guess I'll pick Charles Johnson to win, but there's a good chance I might actually put just a little something on Jimmy Flick, because I just think that line's just disrespectful, all around. These lines are getting so ridiculous, nowadays, guys. I mean, they're making it so hard to make any money off of, this stuff. Because I guess the bookies have been taking a fucking beating here lately, because they do not fucking give anybody the opportunity to make any money, and they're just running up the damn numbers on everybody. And I don't know, man. It's hard to make money like that, and I just don't understand that line at all, really. Well, let's go to the next one, guys. Nassimento versus Carlos Hernandez. Went over this one too. Basically, the story of this is, Nascimento is an excellent grappler. He's really good. It's probably going to be a pretty boring fight, but he's going to take down Carlos Hernandez, and he's going to control him for 3 rounds where he's going to submit him. And that's how it's going to go. For sure. There's unless, Hernandez lands some kind of crazy shot, I don't see it going any other way. Everybody else agrees. You got 79% on Tapology for Nascimento, 21% Hernandez. Yeah, it's definitely probably going to be a pretty boring fight. Most people call him boring. I actually really enjoy grappling, but Nascimento, the only thing I don't like about it, I really do enjoy wrestling and grappling and everything, but he doesn't really do a lot of damage. It's mostly just control. He's not doing a lot of damage, during the ground and pound and everything. It's mostly control time, not a lot of damage, Other than that, it's fun to watch, but just I kind of just wish he'd throw a little bit more ground and pound in there, rather than just holding position or just trying to constantly improve position, which there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes you can get screwed over on these judges' scorecards for that, if you're just, riding out the top position and stuff and not doing any damage, and, the guy stands up and lands a couple good shots, who's to say that they won't give it to the other guy? Moving on to the next one, guys. So this is going to be another play of mine. I didn't put a lot on it, but Caitlin Vieira versus Raquel Pennington. I'm going to be going with Caitlin Vieira here, and I did put a little play on her. I got her at minus 105. I guess it could be a pretty close fight, and the main reason, that I'm going with this is, Vieira's coming off a win over Holly Holm, and I was pretty sure Holly Holm would be fighting for a title here pretty soon. It was a close fight, but I figure if she can, make it close with Holly Holm, I think she could probably beat Pennington here in this spot. Pennington, I guess she's kind of made a big deal because she beat Aspen Ladd, but Aspen Ladd kind of turned out to be kind of a letdown as far as, everybody had this high ceiling for her and everything, and she just kind of didn't live up to it and kind of faded out and moved over to the PFL. Had a lot of troubles making weight, So I'm going to be taking Caitlin Vieira here, and I did have a straight up, play on her at minus 105. Not a lot, just a little something on her. Moving on. Daniel Argueta versus Isaac Bulgarian, I believe. Bulgarian, yeah. So in the last video, I said that, if I could get, Argueta at a pretty good line, I'd probably put some money on him. And, I wasn't able to. He's already at like almost a minus 300 here in this spot. So, I am going to pick Argueta to win. Somebody did comment on my last video and told me to look into, Bulgarian more. Because they were pointing out some of his, wrestling pedigrees and stuff, how he's, I don't even remember what all they said. And I do agree, because I didn't know all that. But, after watching the tape back on these guys, I'm still going to go with Argueta in the spot. You could prove me wrong, bud. I do get where you're coming from on that. But, after watching the tape, I'm still going to go with Argueta in the spot. I think it should be a pretty easy layup for him, man. I'm fairly confident in that. It's just too bad I couldn't get a good line on him to put any money on it. Moving on. Next, we got Umar Magomedov versus Ronnie Barcelos. So what I ended up doing, guys, I caught Umar Magomedov and Javad Baszler. Right when they dropped the lines, I caught them at like 350. They were both at like 350. Right at the beginning, and it's hard making money on that. Trying to improve, my payout. I went ahead and made a 2-man parlay of Umar Magomedov and Javad Baszler, and that ended up giving me like a minus 130 on that parlay. And I will say, guys, it's always smarter to not parlay, to bet separately. I chase it a lot. I chase the money a lot. I do a lot of little parlays and stuff like that. And I will always, say that it's better to divide, bet singles. I know you don't win as much money, but it's safer that way. So don't listen to me if you don't, if you're not super confident in it. But I figured that was the only way to get any good value, out of these guys. Because shortly 10 minutes after I made that bet, Umar shot up to like 550. So can't really make any money on him, in these spots usually. And Ronnie Barcelos is a tough dude. He's really good. It's a little bit later in his career. He didn't really get the good fights that he needed, when he was just like in his prime and everything, and didn't fight as often, as maybe he could have or should have, because if he had, a few years back been taking a lot more fights and getting the better opponents that he deserved, he might have ended up fighting for a title at one point. I don't know if he'd have been a champion, but he was that good, and he is that good, Everybody was kind of saying he was done for, with his losses to Valiev and Henry, and I was really surprised with Henry in that because I couldn't believe that that Henry came in his first fight in the UFC and beat Barcelos, but he came back against Trevin Jones and looked pretty good, but Umar Nurmagomedov he's good all the way around. There's not any holes in his game. He's a very strong wrestler, great striker. He's kind of like a more exciting version of Khabib, I really enjoy his striking, but I have a feeling he's probably not going to mess around with the striking too much here. He's probably just going to try to get Barcelos down and control him, for 3 rounds, and I'm pretty sure, that's probably what he's going to do. So I'm going to take him to win by decision here. But it's a good fight. It's a really good fight. Next, what do we got here? So next we got Abdul Razak Alhassan versus Claudio Ribario. And, I like Alhassan, but I'm not going to pick him here. He was like a big deal at one time, and he had a fucking couple of really good knockouts when he first came in, to the UFC, and he had a loss here, but he had a lot of good knockouts when he first came to the UFC. And basically, everybody thought he was like a really big deal up until the Chaos Williams fight where he was like knocked out in like 10 seconds. So, I like him. He's got a lot of power. I'd like to see him win. I'd like to see him, come out here and get those knockouts. But, I've just been noticing, he's getting up towards 38 years old, and he's got a lot of cardio issues. If he doesn't get a quick knockout, in the first round, he tends to gas and he kind of loses the power, and he's kind of a short, stocky, muscular guy. So I wish I could go with him here. I really do. I think he's actually still a slight favorite right now. So if anybody's looking for a good dog play, go ahead and grab Claudio Ribario. I don't know, Ribario's new to the UFC, and kind of hasn't had like the most active career, but all of his wins are by knockout pretty much, and he looked really good on the Contender Series. I went back and watched that fight and a couple other ones. And he looked really good, and I think he's probably going to get the win here by knockout. Somebody's getting knocked out either way. Maybe the best bet on this would be probably to fight doesn't go the distance. I don't know what the line on that is. I didn't check into it. Kind of been crazy trying to go around and figure all this stuff out, and see what I was going to do and try to get a good video out to you guys and get y'all some free bets and try to show y'all what I'm about. But let's go on to the next one here. Matheus Mendoca versus Javad Baszler. Of course, I already told you. Got a 2-man parlay with Nurmagomedov and Baszler. Baszler's really good. You know, I kind of doubted him when he first came into the UFC. You know, I kind of doubted him. You know, I wasn't super familiar with him. I'd seen a few of his fights, and you know, I believe I saw his Contender Series fight, and you know, I was kind of doubting him. You know, I thought maybe he might have had a padded record or something. You know, because he didn't have a whole lot of like super high level experience, but you know, he's come in, and you know, I was surprised that he beat Tony Gravely because I really like Tony Gravely, but you know, he's looked really good, really solid all the way around, good grappling, nice striking. And, you know, both these guys are undefeated. You got 13-0 versus 10-0, you know, but what's the difference? Really, what stands out the most, you know, is the competition. You know, I mean, this is a guy that's, you know, hasn't even been on the Contender Series. Well, oh, yeah, he was off the Contender Series. Sorry about that. A guy that hasn't had a whole lot of, you know, super high level experience. You know, he's 2 fights ago, he knocked out somebody that was 0-0, had no fights. And so, you know, that's what stands out is the level of competition for these guys. You know, they're both undefeated, but what stands out, I mean, I'd say Baszler's a better grappler. You know, Mendoka's got heavy hands, but Baszler's going to be better than him all the way around, and he's got the high level experience for sure, so I'm definitely going to have to go with him on that one. Next, you got Priscilla Cachoeira versus Sijara Eubanks. I'm taking Cachoeira here. Zombie Girl. Catch it beaten. She's really been impressing me lately. She's coming off of a big knockout over Ariane Lipski, which really surprised me because I'd counted her out in that fight. I didn't think she was going to be able to get the win there. Sijara Eubanks' record is 7-7, but she's fought a lot of tough opponents, you know, and she's always had a lot of trouble making weight, so she's gone up to bantamweight here. But in this fight, she's going to be the smaller fighter for sure. Definitely taking Cachoeira there. Everybody's agreeing with me. 79% Cachoeira, 21% for Eubanks on Tapology. Yeah, definitely going with that there. And last, I've been waiting on the line on this fucking fight to drop, and it hasn't yet, and I don't understand why. But we got Matheus Rebecki going against Nick Fiore. And you got to go with Rebecki here because he's got the better. He's 16-1, number 1 fighter out of Poland, great grappler, great wrestler, got big power, built like a tank. This other guy, he's good, he's looked good, but he's fighting really bad competition. You know, he's fighting guys with 5-19 record, and he fought a guy 15-98. So the competition he's fighting, I'm not saying he's not a good fighter, but the competition, he's coming in the UFC on short notice to fill in. I just don't think he's going to be able to do it here, but, you know, cool for him to step up on short notice and fill in. I wish somebody had done that with Shavkat Ramonov, so we wouldn't have lost our main event that everybody was looking forward to. But if I can get a good enough price on Matheus here, Rebecki, I'd like to get some money on him, but I have a feeling he's going to be a really big favorite here in this spot for sure. But I would like to add him in. Maybe I can parlay him with some other people, but, you know, 91% for Rebecki here. I see it for sure. So other than that, I did put together kind of a big parlay, which I only put a little bit of money on these. With my most confident, you know, picks on the card. So I got a 8-team parlay. I only put like $40 on it. Got Magomedov, Baszler, Imavov, Vieira, Nassimento, Argueta, Soriano, and Ribario. And I believe that's like a plus, you know, 2,000 and, you know, 200 something or something like that. But glad I was able to get the update out to you guys. And there's all my bets for this card. If anything changes, I'll probably post another video or you'll see it on my Instagram. Appreciate it, guys. I'm out of here.